I sat alone in a small, quiet coffee shop on a Saturday morning. No corporate suit, just a plain gray t-shirt and jeans. I was sipping my black coffee, watching people walk by outside the window. 3 years after my divorce, my life had changed in ways nobody expected. People looked at me and thought I was unemployed, that I had nothing. But they did not know the truth. Sometimes what your eyes see is not the whole story. And my ex-wife's new husband was about to learn that the hard way. But before I tell you what happened that day, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city in the comments below. And if you are curious to see how this all played out, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Because what happened next changed everything. Not just for him, but for everyone who thought they had me figured out. Let me take you back to where it all started. I married Sarah 5 years before all of this happened. We met when we both worked for a large marketing company downtown. It was simple in the beginning. Real love, nothing complicated. Sarah loved stability. She wanted a steady paycheck, regular work hours, weekend picnics in the park. I had dreams of running my own business, but I was not brave enough yet to take that step. We spent our evenings together. She would cook dinner, we would watch television, and we would talk about the future. We talked about buying a house someday, maybe having children. It was not dramatic or exciting. It was just the normal life of a young married couple trying to build something together. 3 years into our marriage, I made a decision that would change everything. I quit my job. I had an idea for a startup, a consulting company focused on digital marketing for small businesses. This was 5 years ago, and digital marketing was exploding. I sat Sarah down one evening after dinner and told her my plan. I can still remember the look on her face. I said to her, "This is our opportunity. I need you to trust me." She nodded slowly, but I could see the worry in her eyes. She agreed, but she was not excited. She was scared. The first year was brutal. I worked from sunrise until late into the night, sometimes until 2 or 3 in the morning. My income was unpredictable. Some months I made a few $100s. Other months, almost nothing. Sarah kept her office job and carried most of our expenses. The warm evenings we used to share disappeared. I was always stressed, always exhausted. She would sit on the couch alone while I typed away on my laptop in the next room. Sarah started complaining about 6 months in. She would say, "I do not see a future in this." The arguments became more frequent. She felt lonely and ignored. I kept telling her I was building something for both of us for our future together. But Sarah was tired. After 2 years of watching me struggle, she had had enough. One Tuesday evening, she came home from work and sat down across from me at our small kitchen table. She said quietly, "I cannot do this anymore. I'm sorry." I felt my heart break, but I understood. We signed the divorce papers on a Tuesday afternoon a few weeks later. There was no screaming, no throwing things, just sadness. Deep, heavy sadness that sat in the room between us. After the divorce, I moved into a tiny one-bedroom apartment. I was alone, but I was determined to prove that I had been right to take this risk. I worked even harder than before. I stayed up until 3 or 4 in the morning drinking black coffee, calling potential clients, sending emails, improving my services. I was lonely, but I refused to give up. Then, 6 months after the divorce, something incredible happened. A mid-sized tech company reached out to me. They needed marketing consulting for a new product they were launching. I prepared for days. I walked into that meeting with everything I had. I presented my strategy, answered every question, and showed them exactly what I could do. They signed a contract worth nearly $100,000. I sat in my car after that meeting holding the signed contract in my hands. My hands were shaking. I could not believe it was real. I called my only close friend Marcus and said, "Marcus, I did it. I actually did it." That contract was the turning point. Over the next 2 years, my company grew rapidly. I went from working alone to hiring a team. First 5 employees, then 10, then 20. My clients went from small local businesses to major corporations. Revenue reached several $1 million per year. I opened a new office in a high-rise building downtown on the 12th floor. I named my company Apex Digital Solutions. But here's the thing. I kept my lifestyle simple. I still drove my old car. I still wore t-shirts and jeans most days. I did not post about my success on social media. I did not have a flashy LinkedIn profile. I did not attend many networking events. I just focused on the work. I did not need to prove anything to anyone. I just wanted to build something real, something that mattered. Very few people knew I was the CEO. Only my employees and a couple of close friends knew the truth. So when I ran into Sarah and her new husband, they had no idea what I had become. It was a Friday afternoon and I had some free time. I decided to go to my favorite coffee shop, the small place where I used to work on my laptop in the early days. I was wearing my usual gray t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers. I did not bring my laptop. I just wanted to relax. The weather was warm, and the afternoon sun came through the window at just the right angle. I ordered an Americano and sat down in my usual spot by the window. Then Sarah walked in, and she was not alone. Sarah still looked beautiful. She wore a neat office dress and had her hair pulled back. Next to her was a tall man in an expensive suit. His watch was a Rolex and it caught the light as he moved. His name was Derek. I would soon learn that Derek worked as a senior account manager at a company. Ironically, that company was Apex Digital Solutions, my company. But Derek had no idea I was the CEO. I rarely went to the office and I let my VP of operations run the day-to-day activities. Most employees had never even seen me in person. Sarah's eyes went wide when she saw me sitting there. She walked over slowly, and Derek followed. She said, "Guadalupe." "Oh my God, it has been, 3 years?" Her voice was polite but distant. Derek extended his hand with a confident smile. "So, you are the ex. I have heard a lot about you." I stood up and shook his hand. Sarah asked, "Are you doing okay? What are you doing these days?" I smiled and said simply, "I am good. Still working in marketing." Derek jumped in. "Oh, marketing. That is cool. Where do you work?" I kept my answer vague. "I do freelance work. I work for myself." Derek nodded, and I saw a flicker of something in his eyes, a hint of judgment. He said, "Freelance, huh? That must be flexible." The way he said flexible made it sound like code for unemployed. They invited themselves to sit down at my table, and that is when things took a turn I did not expect. Derek pulled out a chair without asking and sat down. Sarah sat next to him looking uncomfortable. Derek ordered drinks for both of them, acting like he owned the place. I sat quietly watching, staying polite but cautious. I already felt the tension building. Derek leaned back in his chair and said, "So, freelance marketing. That has got to be tough, right? Especially in this economy." I kept my voice even. "It has its challenges." He continued, "I bet. I mean, no stable income, no benefits. That must be stressful." He emphasized the words, "no stable income," like he wanted to make sure I understood how precarious my situation seemed. Sarah tried to interrupt. "Derek, do not." But he cut her off. No, I am just being realistic. I respect the hustle." He took a sip of his coffee, looking at me with an evaluating stare. I said simply, "I manage." Derek laughed a little. "Well, Sarah told me you were always a dreamer. It is good to have dreams. But sometimes you have got to be practical too, you know?" Then Derek started talking about himself. "I just got promoted to senior account manager at Apex Digital Solutions. You might have heard of it." I nodded. "Yeah, I have heard of it." His face lit up. "We are one of the top digital marketing firms in the city. Great pay, amazing benefits, company car." He started listing everything. 6-figure salary bonuses, stock options, health insurance, the works. Sarah stared down at her coffee cup, not saying anything. Derek kept going. "It is a solid gig. Stability, you know. Something I think you probably miss." I just smiled and said nothing. He leaned forward. "But hey, freelance life must be fun, right? Sleep in, no boss to report to. His tone was mocking now, barely hidden behind a thin layer of fake friendliness. I was about to stand up and leave when Derek said, Wait, actually some of my buddies are coming. They work at Apex too. You should meet them." Before I could decline, 3 men walked through the door. Derek waved at them. "Hey guys." Over here I sat back down knowing this was about to get worse. The 3 men walked over. They were all wearing expensive business suits, shiny watches, and leather briefcases. Derek introduced them. "This is Brad, Kyle, and Jason. They all work at Apex Digital Solutions." Brad was a sales manager. Kyle was a senior marketing strategist. Jason was a client relations director. Derek gestured toward me. "This is Guadalupe Sarah's ex-husband. He is a freelance marketer." The way he said freelance marketer sounded like he was saying unemployed but trying to be polite. The 3 men looked at me, nodded politely, but I could see the judgment in their eyes. Brad spoke first. "Freelance man. That is rough. How do you even get clients?" I kept my voice calm. "Word of mouth mostly." Kyle shook his head. "Word of mouth, dude. You need to be on LinkedIn attending networking events, all that." I said, "I prefer to keep things low-key." Jason laughed. "Low-key. In this industry, good luck with that." Derek jumped in pretending to defend me. "Guys, be nice. He's doing his best." But his tone made it sound even more condescending. Brad leaned forward. "Seriously though, if you ever want a real job, Apex is always hiring. I mean, maybe not at our level, but entry-level stuff?" Kyle added, "Yeah, we could put in a word for you. Graphic design, intern, social media coordinator." They all chuckled lightly. I stayed silent, just smiling slightly. Jason looked at me. "How much do freelancers even make?" "Like 30,000–40,000 a year," Derek said, "if they are lucky." The whole group laughed. Sarah finally spoke up. "Derek, that is enough." But Derek waved her off. "What I am just saying," Brad continued honestly, "I do not know how you do it. I would be stressed out of my mind without a steady paycheck." Kyle nodded. "Right. I mean, we complain about corporate life, but at least we know we are getting paid every 2 weeks." Derek looked at me with fake sympathy. "Guadalupe here is brave, though, living the risky life." Jason smirked. Or maybe just unemployed and calling it freelance. The entire group burst into laughter. Sarah's face turned red. Derek stopped. But Derek kept going. "I am kidding. I am kidding. But seriously, man, if you need help, just let us know. We have all been there." I stayed calm on the outside, but inside I was making a decision. That is when I decided enough was enough. I placed my coffee cup down gently and sat up straight. I said in a steady voice, "Actually, I do have a steady paycheck." Derek laughed. "Oh yeah, who do you work for?" I looked him directly in the eyes. "Apex Digital Solutions." There was a moment of complete silence. Brad laughed nervously. "Wait, what? You work at Apex?" I nodded. "Yeah." Kyle frowned. "I've never seen you around the office," I said calmly. "I am not around the office much." Jason asked what department. I answered, "Executive." Derek burst out laughing. "Executive. Dude, come on. Stop messing around." Brad joined in. "There is no way. We would know if there was someone new in executive." I said, "I am not new." Kyle looked confused. "Then what is your position?" I kept my voice as calm as if I were commenting on the weather. "I am the CEO." Complete silence fell over the table. Derek stared at me, then broke into loud laughter. "CEO. Okay, now I know you are bullshitting." Brad, Kyle, and Jason all joined in laughing like it was the funniest joke they had ever heard. Sarah looked at me and I saw doubt starting to form in her eyes. "Guadalupe," she said quietly. I reached into my wallet and pulled out my business card. I placed it on the table. It read, "Guadalupe Martinez, founder and CEO, Apex Digital Solutions." It had my official phone number and email. Derek picked up the card. His face went pale. Brad said, "This has got to be fake." I pulled out my phone. "Would you like me to call my VP of Operations? She can confirm." Kyle grabbed his phone and started searching on Google. Apex Digital Solutions, CEO. A local business article appeared on his screen. There was a photo of me in a suit at a business event. The headline read, "CEO of Apex Digital Solutions discusses growth strategy." Jason looked at the screen. His face turned white. Oh, shit. Derek sat frozen, his hand shaking as he held my business card. And that is when I made my decision. Derek's face turned bright red. He could not form words. Brad stammered, Mr. Martinez." "I did not," Kyle interrupted. "We were just joking around. We did not mean—" Jason sat in complete silence, staring down at the table. Sarah covered her face with her hands. She was clearly in shock. Derek tried desperately to fix the situation. "Guadalupe, man, I am sorry. I did not know. If I had known—" I cut him off. My voice was cold. "If you had known I was your boss, you would have treated me differently. But if you thought I was just a struggling freelancer, it is okay to humiliate me." Silence. Brad tried again. "That is not—" "We were not trying to—" I interrupted. "Trying to what? Make me feel small, worthless." I leaned forward and spoke directly to all of them. "You laughed at me because you thought I had nothing. You judged me without knowing a single thing about who I really am." I looked straight at Derek. "You assumed that because Sarah left me, I must be a failure." Derek looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I continued. "Success is not about what you wear or what car you drive. It is about what you build. And I built Apex from nothing. While you were sitting in your comfortable corporate jobs, I was working 18-hour days to create something real. I turned to Brad, Kyle, and Jason. You three work for me. You are good at your jobs, I will give you that. But the way you treated someone you thought was beneath you, that tells me everything I need to know about your character." Brad said desperately, "Mr. Martinez, please." I held up my hand. I do not fire people for making mistakes. But I do fire people who lack basic human decency. I will see you all in the office Monday morning. And I suggest you start looking for new jobs. I took out my phone and dialed a number. The phone rang twice before someone answered. "Linda, it is Guadalupe. Sorry to bother you on a Friday evening." My VP of Operations, Linda Hayes, answered. "No problem. What is up?" I said clearly. "I need you to prepare termination paperwork for 4 employees. I gave her the names: Derek Harrison, Brad Thompson, Kyle Stevens, Jason Rodriguez. Linda paused. "All 4. What happened?" I explained briefly. "Professional misconduct. Harassment. I will send you a detailed email, but I want them terminated effective immediately. Monday morning security will escort them out." Linda responded professionally. "Understood. I will have human resources process everything over the weekend." I thanked her and hung up. Derek panicked. Wait. You cannot do this." I looked at him calmly. "I absolutely can. You signed an employee conduct agreement. You violated it." Brad stood up. "Please, I have a mortgage, kids." I said firmly, "You should have thought about that before mocking someone for their career choices." Kyle's voice rose. "This is unfair." I kept my tone level. "What is unfair is ganging up on someone you thought could not fight back." Jason stayed silent. He knew there was nothing he could say. Derek turned to Sarah desperately. "Sarah, please say something." Sarah looked at Derek, then at me, then back at Derek. "I cannot believe you did this." Derek pleaded, "I was just joking." Sarah's voice was sharp. "No. You were being cruel." Sarah turned to me. Her eyes were filled with regret. "You really did it. You built the company." I nodded. "I told you I would." She said softly, "I did not believe you. I thought you were wasting your time." Her voice broke. "If I had stayed, if I had just believed in you." I interrupted her gently. "Sarah, we cannot change the past. You made your choice. I do not blame you." Tears rolled down her face. "I am sorry. I am so sorry." Derek tried to reach for her. "Sarah," but she pulled away. "I need to go. Alone." She stood up and looked at me one last time. "I hope you find someone who believes in you the way I should have." Then she walked out of the coffee shop. Derek stood up and made one last desperate attempt. "Guadalupe, please. I will do anything. I need this job." I looked at him without emotion. You need to learn respect more than you need a job. Brad, Kyle, and Jason also stood and left in silence. Derek stopped at the door and turned back. "I regret this," I said quietly. "You regret getting caught. That is different." Derek walked out. I sat back down alone in the coffee shop. I did not feel triumphant. I did not feel happy. I just felt a strange sense of peace. I went home that evening to my simple apartment. It was not a penthouse. It was not fancy. It was just a place where I felt comfortable. I sat on my couch and looked out the window at the city lights below. I asked myself, was I too harsh? But then I remembered the way they laughed, the way they looked down at me. It was not about them not knowing I was the CEO. It was about the fact that they thought it was acceptable to treat someone poorly just because they believed that person was below them. I realized something important. I did not fire them for insulting me. I fired them because they revealed who they truly are. On Saturday, I met with Linda and our Human Resources Director. We reviewed the employee conduct policy together. Derek and the other 3 had all signed it when they were hired. The policy clearly stated, treat all individuals with respect regardless of position. Our HR director confirmed we have sufficient grounds for termination. I nodded. Proceed, according to standard procedures. Give them the severance package required by law. I do not want them to have grounds to sue us. Linda agreed. Understood. Monday morning security will be waiting in the lobby. That Sunday evening, I wrote an email to the entire company. I did not mention Derek or anyone by name. I simply reminded everyone respect is not optional. It is the foundation of our culture. I ended the email with this: we treat everyone with dignity, regardless of their title or background. I sent the email late Sunday night. I arrived at the office at 8 o'clock Monday morning. I wore a suit for the first time in months. I was not trying to show off. I just wanted to show the seriousness of the situation. Security was already waiting in the lobby. Derek arrived at 8:30. I could see he still had a glimmer of hope that he could negotiate his way out of this. But when he saw security, his face went pale. Brad, Kyle, and Jason arrived one by one shortly after. Linda and our HR director met with each of them separately in a private conference room. They explained clearly, your employment is terminated effective immediately due to violation of company conduct policy. Derek tried to argue, this is wrongful termination, but HR was prepared. You signed the conduct agreement. We have documentation. Each of them received their severance package and was escorted out of the building by security. I stood in my office on the 12th floor looking down at the street below. I watched Derek walk out of the building, his shoulders slumped. Brad, Kyle, and Jason followed behind him. I did not feel satisfaction. I felt sadness. I was sad because they destroyed their own opportunities. I was sad because they never learned how to respect other people. Linda walked into my office. It is done. I nodded. Thank you. She said the other employees are asking what happened. I looked at her. They will know, and hopefully they will learn from it. After everything that happened, I realized I still carried pain from my divorce. It was not because I still loved Sarah. It was because I felt rejected. I felt like I was not worthy of being trusted. There were nights when I could not sleep. I kept asking myself, am I really worth believing in? But then I looked at everything I had built. My company was not successful because of luck. It was successful because of hard work, dedication, and integrity. Slowly, I began to accept the truth. I am enough. I always was. I started taking better care of myself. I went to the gym early in the mornings. I joined a nonprofit organization that helped young entrepreneurs. I reconnected with old friends. Marcus, my close friend from college, became my support system. We spent weekend evenings having dinner, watching movies, and talking about life. For the first time in years, I felt like I was not just surviving. I was actually living. 6 months after the incident, I realized I was no longer angry at Derek or Sarah. I did not feel pain when I thought about the past. They hurt me, but they also helped me realize my own worth. I did not need them to validate me. I validated myself through my work and my integrity. One day, I received an email from Sarah. She apologized sincerely and wished me happiness. She also mentioned that she and Derek had separated. I replied with a short message. "Thank you. I wish you well too." And I truly meant it. I learned an important lesson through all of this. The way people treat those they think are not important says everything about their character. Derek and his friends were polite to their bosses and nice to clients, but they were cruel to someone they thought was beneath them. That does not make someone a good person. That just makes someone opportunistic. I applied this lesson to my hiring process. I always observe how job candidates treat our receptionist, our security guards, and our cleaning staff. If they do not show respect to those people, they do not get hired. Once I turned down an extremely qualified candidate because he spoke harshly to our front desk receptionist. I explained to my HR team skills can be taught. Character cannot. I also learned that success is not about titles, money, or cars. It is about integrity. It is about staying true to your values. I could have fired them and felt smug about it, but instead I felt sad. I realized they had probably been like this their whole lives, and nobody had ever held them accountable. I hope they learned something from this experience. Maybe they will become better people. Maybe they will not. But at least now they know that actions have consequences. 3 years after my divorce and 2 years after the incident with Derek, I still sit in the same coffee shop. My company continues to grow. I still live simply. I still wear t-shirts and jeans. I still drive my old car. I do not need to prove anything to anyone. I have met a few new people. I have gone on some casual dates. But I am not rushing into a new relationship. I am focused on building a life I love. People will judge you based on what they see, and sometimes they will be wrong. The key is not to change who you are to fit their expectations. The key is to stay true to yourself, build something meaningful, and let your work speak for itself. Derek and his friends learned that the hard way, but I hope they learned. As for me, I learned that success is not about what you wear or where you work. It is about who you are when no one is watching, and I am proud of who I have become, not because I am a CEO, but because I am a good person first, and that more than anything is what matters. Before I go, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who later regretted it? Drop your story in the comments below. I would love to hear it. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you have not already subscribed so you do not miss future stories, share this video with someone who needs to hear that their worth is not defined by what others think. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that respect, integrity, and kindness matter more than any title or paycheck ever will. Stay true to yourself. Keep building. And remember, the people who doubt you today might be the ones asking for your help tomorrow. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.